I offer my loving pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Lord and express the gratitude of one and all assembled here for this wonderful opportunity to be at His lotus feet here in Singapore and to be part of the proceedings of the inaugural session of Samarpan here in the city of Singapore. Yesterday, I was there at Vrindavan. They had their 96th edition of Samarpan. It was an initiative taken up by the alumni way back in 2011. They made a request to the warden and the principal. I happened to be the principal of the campus at that time. So every time Swami would come to Vrindavan, he would invite the students to Trai and ask some elders or teachers to address them and share their experiences with Bhagwan. So we would like to take up this initiative. Would you permit us to organize a monthly event? And we readily gave because the intention was so noble. And that small initiative has spread to various parts of the country and now spreading across the globe. So very happy that our alumni have taken this initiative along with the Shri Sathya Sai International Organization. Both have collaborated together for making this event possible. And I still remember the first edition we had in Vrindavan. There was this student who had just stepped into the campus. These are students who have never seen Swami. They joined the university after Swami had given up the body. And Professor Anil Kumar, who used to translate Bhagwan's discourses, was the first speaker in the first edition of Samarpan at Vrindavan. So he was sharing his experiences, and this student is sitting in the hall and had his own silent communication with Bhagwan. He said, Swami, if it's true that you're sitting in the chair here, at this moment, the flower should fall in the altar. And at that moment, right in front of his eyes, the flower fell. So he came in great excitement and shared with me. He said, Sir, Swami was sitting there when Samarpan was going on. And after hearing that boy's experience, I always felt that, of course, Swami is always with us, but when Samarpan starts, there's one thing you can certainly be sure, that Bhagwan has come and installed himself on the chair 5 minutes before Samarpan is starting. We may be a little delayed, but Bhagwan is not late. Because who is it who can really vouchsafe for the divine? The only people who can act as witness for the divine are his devotees. And who is it who can truly identify his devotees and describe their temperament and describe their nature? The only person who truly understands the devotees of the Lord is the Lord himself. One day, one of our alumnus brothers in Radio Sai, they brought to my attention this beautiful sloka in the Bhagavad Gita. Is the 10th chapter, 9th sloka, and the Lord is describing his devotees, and he says, my devotees, how will they be? How will you identify them? What will they be doing? And he says, they will fix their minds in me, their whole life will be absorbed in me, and they will be enlightening each other, telling my stories, and delighting in sharing those stories, and find great fulfillment and contentment in that process. This is what Lord has said in the Gita 5,000 years ago. So Samarpan is something which has got divine sanction. I remember it was Dasara celebrations at Prashant, and every day in the evening in the Prashanti Vidwan Mahasabha, there would be some elders, some students, some teachers speaking. Following that would be Bhagwan's discourse. So one day, in the course of his discourse, Swami said, fortunately, my turn was over. I was also a speaker in that series of talks, but my turn was over. So the speaker of the day, the faculty chosen for the day, was speaking, and his talk got over. Swami came for his discourse, and he said, you know, these people, they keep saying, brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters. Do they really mean what they're saying? If it's true that they are brothers and sisters, are they willing to share their father's property with all of them? Simply they say brothers and sisters. You know, public thrashing for all the speakers. So the next day happened to be the turn of another faculty member to address the Kulwant Hall. And you can imagine how difficult it is after Swami has spoken the previous day. So he's wondering to himself, how should I address this audience? And I still remember he started, fellow pilgrims to the lotus feet, thinking that it is very, very safe and something which Swami cannot deny. You know, we are all on the journey to his lotus feet, so then it was Swami's turn to speak. And he said, look at this fellow. Yesterday only I told, and where is their conviction? He's saying fellow pilgrims to the lotus feet. That means truly they believe they are not brothers and sisters. You know, if you tell we are brothers and sisters, it's a problem. You don't tell we are brothers and sisters, also it's a problem. You know, the Lord knew how to corner us and pin us down. That was Swami. But when I reflected on that, see, he will never say something which is without meaning. And I thought to myself, what did Swami mean by saying that simply these people are calling each other brothers and sisters? If we have to distribute whatever material possessions we have with everybody, it will create a different kind of problem. Even in Sanatana Dharma, it is said, in our culture, it is said that when you do charity, it should be done to the needy and to the deserving. Otherwise, instead of acquiring merit, you acquire sin if you give it to undeserving people. So, what did Swami mean by saying that, are you willing to share your father's property? And then it dawned on me, what is actually the true property of all of us? The true property is the experience you have had with Bhagwan, the Divine Father, the Divine Mother. And it is that property he wants us to share with each other. And it is such a property that when you give it to somebody, it's not that you're going to lose something. The person who receives benefits. The person who is sharing it also benefits. In fact, he benefits more than the person even who is receiving it. So, this was my thought, that Bhagwan is encouraging us, guiding us, inspiring us, that whatever lessons we have learnt at his lotus feet, we must not keep it to ourselves and distribute to whoever finds it useful. It's not that everything may be useful for everybody, but something at some point of time may provide light to some soul. So it is in that spirit that any one of us may come up to the stage to share our experiences, and in the process of listening to the Lord's story, we ourselves are reminded of so many experiences we may have had similarly, and which helps us to connect with the divine. A lot was explained about the meaning of Samarpan, and I remember it was a session in the Sai Ramesh Hall in Vrindavan. Swami said, why does man come back again and again into this world? He goes through whole of life's experience. Again he comes back into this world, and it goes on and on. There must be some reason why this cycle goes unending. He said there is one reason, and that reason is, in spiritual domain, it is a capital crime, a fundamental crime. And for making that fundamental crime, you get capital punishment. And what is capital punishment? Capital punishment is punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. How can you break the cycle of birth and death? I will tell you one way. And he said, this is the only way you will be able to break this cycle. And then he revealed, sometimes you have to be there at the feet of the Lord when those words of wisdom, gems of wisdom are coming out. You should be there to receive. And I happened to be that day in the Sai Ramesh Hall, and these were his words. He said, there is one way in which the soul can escape the cycle of birth and death, and that is, whatever you do, you offer it to the divine. Dedicate it to the divine. Don't segregate anything in your life. This is my personal work. This is my family work. This is my Sathya Sai organization work. This is my professional work. We keep compartmentalizing our life. That was not Swami's teaching. He said life is one. I remember there was a faculty member in the university, one day inspired by a discourse in the summer course. Swami said, all of y'all, you should think of the Lord 24 hours. So he said, 24 hours? That means I should stop teaching in the university. It's coming in the way of my thinking of the Lord. And he gave his resignation letter to the university authorities. The principal didn't accept. He said, no, just wait. Swami is coming back from Vrindavan and we will then look into this. But he said, no, I have given my resignation letter. After a few days, Swami came, and within a few days, he called all the teachers for an interview. So one by one, all are going in, and he also got tempted. See, I have given the resignation letter, but it is not yet accepted. So technically speaking, I am still on the rolls as a faculty. So he also came inside. And then in the course of the interview, Swami lambasted him. He said, what you are saying that you want to do sadhana? Do you know what is sadhana? 24 hours sadhana you are talking of. If you segregate personal, secular and spiritual like this, in 1,000 births I will not give you what you want, he said. In 1,000 births, he just calculated average lifespan 70 years. That means for the next 70,000 years I am not going to get liberation. He said, no Swami, please don't give me that kind of a blessing. He says, what is sadhana? To live together harmoniously, to work together harmoniously. That is sadhana. To have control over your senses. That is sadhana. Not to think that you just go into the Himalayas and just think of the Lord. That is not the sadhana which Swami wanted us. He wanted us to be in the world and yet not to be of it. So, with these few thoughts, I will take up narration of a few experiences that I've had in the divine presence of Bhagwan. And let me begin with this first episode. One day evening, we were sitting in the Prashanti Mandir, I was, I think, a final year undergraduate student at that time, and Swami finished the interviews with the devotees, and he walked close to where the students were seated. So there was this high school kid who was there, and Swami picked him up, and he asked him, "How old are you?" And when Swami asked him that question, I quickly calculated for myself, if this question were asked to me, what would have been my answer? And I quickly calculated, and I thought, today I am 20 years old. The moment this thought occurred to me, Swami's face, just grew big. His eyes were beaming, and he's expressing surprise, and he's talking to that school kid. He said, 20 years? And I was surprised. What is this? That fellow cannot be 20 years. He's a school kid. 20 years was what I was thinking, but somehow my thoughts and Swami's conversation, got aligned. So I became highly intrigued, and what is Swami up to? There is something which he wants me to pay attention. So I became hypersensitive to what's coming. So then the boy said, "No, Swami, I am only 6 years old." 6 years old? Which class are you studying? He said, "Swami, I am studying in the 8th standard." You're studying in the 8th standard? And you're saying that you're 6 years old? How is it possible? And then this boy whispered something into Swami's ears. And when Swami heard this answer, oh, what a smile on his face. And for the benefit of all of us who couldn't hear the whisper, Swami said, "You know what this fellow is saying? He says that it was 6 years old, 6 years ago, he came and joined Swami's school. That is why he is only 6 years old today." What a revelation it was. When we come to Swami, that is our birth. The Shastras say, when a man is born, he is born an animal. It is only when he is initiated into the spiritual life, he becomes a Dvija, he becomes a twice born. So that day was a big revelation for me that my real birth was when God entered my heart and he became a part of my being and part of my life. That was the time when I was really born. So that was the first lesson which I learned at Bhagwan's, one of the important early lessons I learned at his lotus feet. The second experience I want to share is, I think it was the first month of my stay in the college. In those days, the food at Prashant, whether it was hostel or it was the canteens in the mandir, was typical Andhra style, highly, what should I say, it was very, very rich in chilies. And it was not at all comfortable. I was not used to eat that kind of food. And so within 1 month, my whole stomach was shattered. And, when you have those kinds of issues, and I'm sure all the alumni here will accept that all of us have had adjustment problems when we joined Swami's educational institutions in our own unique ways. So food was a very big challenge for me. And so what happens when you are not able to eat the food and not able to digest the food that is being served? So, first thing that you remember is your mother, right? How she used to cook for you, how she used to cook the most dainty dishes for you. And so I started one day thinking about that, and for a few seconds, my mind went back to my hometown and to my home, and my most favorite dish that with great relish I used to have. My mother would take a chapati, which was a little dry from the previous evening, and then she would smear butter on it, and then she would sprinkle sugar on it and roll it up. And that was a delicacy of outside off. It's not possible to explain what kind of a delicacy it was. You have to have it. So I started thinking at my home as to have this, but this is hostel and it's not part of the menu. This is Puttaparthi, this is South India. So I forgot about it. 2 or 3 days later, I was serving breakfast in the dining hall, and it so happened that it doesn't happen daily. It didn't happen for so many months. But that particular day, all the items in the breakfast got over. So when I finished the serving, I took my plate, I went to the counter, I went to each vessel, and everything was wiped clean. And I was so hungry. I didn't want to go to college on a hungry stomach. So I went inside and I asked our kitchen in charge, "Sir, I was serving breakfast. Today all items are over. Can I get something to eat?" And he looked for some items in the kitchen, but that day nothing was left in the kitchen. But not willing to send me empty-handed, he just looked around, and chapatis were being baked for the lunch. So he said, "Chapatis are getting ready for lunch. Can I give you chapati?" I said, "Sir, anything will do. Whatever is there, I can have." So he took 2 chapatis from the oven and put it on my plate. Then he went to see whether the curry was ready. The curry, the sambar, all was still getting cooked. It was, breakfast time. Lunch is not yet ready. Then he went to a corner of the kitchen with that plate. He put his hand in one vessel, put something on the plate, put his hand in the other vessel, put something on the plate, and served it to me. I went and sat for my Brahmarpanam prayer, and I looked at my plate. There was chapati, there was butter, homemade butter, and there was sugar. A fraction of a thought. When I shared it with my mother, see, this is what has happened to me. I don't know. These were her spontaneous words to me. He said, "From now on, whatever you need in life, Swami will give you. You will not need me." Imagine a mother telling her son in such an innocuous way. She, literally prophesied what my life subsequently validated. Everything that you need in life, the Divine Lord gives you. He provides for you. What instrument He uses, that is His choice. But He is the provider, and that's what my mother, it proved to be a blessing or a prophecy, I don't know, but this was the experience of my life. So this is something which happened in the early stages of my association with Bhagwan. One day it so happened that Swami was in Vrindavan. We were having night study hours. And an announcement is made on the public PA system. Any students who want to write letters to Bhagwan, they can come and leave their letters in the Warden's office by 9 o'clock or something. And the next day was an examination day for us. And everybody in the room was busy studying. I was having a splitting headache. Whatever effort I was putting, I'm not able to concentrate on the book. So I thought, anyway, I'm not able to study. Let me at least write letters to Swami. Let me not lose that opportunity. So I took out a letter pad and started writing a letter. And when you're writing a letter to Swami, you don't just write something and send it. You think, you weigh every word, you contemplate what you would like to share. So it was quite some time, 10-15 minutes it must have taken for me to complete the letter. I put it in the envelope, went to the warden's office, delivered it there, and came back to the room. When I came back to the room, to my utter astonishment, I found that the headache is gone. And then something strange happened. There was my neighbor who also had heard the announcement, and all the time he was preparing for the exam, suddenly he closed his cupboard and rolled out his bed. I asked him, what happened? He said, I'm getting a headache. I want to sleep. I could not help but contrast the situation. Here was I with a splitting headache, and I said, forget exams, I will write a letter to Swami. And those few minutes that I wrote that letter, my headache disappeared. Here was, nothing wrong with that approach of my neighbor. He said, no, tomorrow exam is there, and duty is God, and I must concentrate on that. So he thought, next time I can write a letter. Why spare any time for writing letter today? And by studying, he got such a headache, he could not study, nor could he even send the letter. So it taught to me a very important lesson, though in a very indirect way. When we are in the world and give our mind to the world, sometimes we get depressed, sometimes we get vexed, sometimes things don't happen the way we want, and then we lose our enthusiasm for life. But that mind, if the same mind is offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, He will give you all the joy and all the energy to fill every minute of your life, your personal life, professional life, spiritual life, everything, gets permeated with that divine energy. And that is what happens to you when you are connected to the divine. So never think, I used to always tell students, never think that the time you give to God or to Swami is a waste of time. It is not an expenditure. People in the world of finance, in the world of business understand it is not an expenditure, it is an investment. And when you make an investment, throughout life you will earn dividends, you will earn interest. The next episode I want to narrate is something which happened when I was in my master's. And it so happened that all university toppers were given a scholarship by the government of India. So they would get the list from the universities and they would remit that scholarship amount to the university, and through the university it will be given to the individual students. So because of my topping the undergraduate program in our university, I was one day told that this scholarship amount is being given to you on behalf of the government of India. So I thought that, this is something which, if at all anybody deserves the credit, it is Swami. Because all the while, it is his grace which has been responsible for it. Because this was my feeling. If I knew cooking, I would have cooked the most dainty dishes and I would have fed the Lord. If I knew gardening, I would have grown a beautiful bed of roses and offered those roses to the Lord. But I had no such talent, no such skill. The only skill I had was I can study. And I thought, why not offer these studies to the Lord? And believe me or not, and especially for youngsters, I always used to tell, see, anything which you do with the feeling of Samarpan, there's one person who will certainly acknowledge it, and that is the Lord Himself. Every semester, the results would come out. One day before the results are put up on the notice board, Swami would announce the results in the Mandir portico. And he would pick students from the whole group, and he would call them in the front, and he said, all of these students have got outstanding grade, and give us Pad Namaskar. One day, I remember, he asked me, how did you do your exam? I said, Swami, results have not yet been told. I have not been announced. He said, your examiner is yet to correct your papers, but I'm telling you, you have got outstanding grade. Imagine, the examiner has not yet seen your paper, but the chief examiner of the university has already certified it. So when you do it with that feeling of Samarpan, the Lord is there to acknowledge. So when the scholarship amount came, I thought, this is Swamis. This credit goes to Swami. But I used to always feel that there's nothing which we can give to the Lord. No, He is there giving us everything. What can we give to Him? But this desire came that, no, this is something which I would like to offer, and this is not something which belongs to my dad. It's not my father's wealth or property. It's something which has come to me, and because Swami is responsible for it, I should offer it to him. So I sat that day in the evening, and with great trepidation in the heart that whatever that money was, and I wrote a letter and put it in an envelope and praying intensely to the Lord, Lord, please accept this letter, please accept this letter. And He came by and He saw me and He picked up the envelope, and I was on top of the world. My Lord, the Lord has accepted it. But this joy was only 24 hours. The next day, the controller of examinations of the university, he rang me up. He said, Sanjay, have you given any money to Swami? I was totally, something between me and Swami. He said, no, Swami, he said, there is some student who has got some scholarship. You just see, he's given this money to me. So I looked up the list of students in the scholarship list, and I thought, now whom to ask? Swami has not told. So he thought to himself, and that's what he told me. Whether Swami told or not, that is between him and Swami. Because sometimes Swami will tell, hey, don't tell my name. So we don't know. But this is what he told me. He said, I looked up the list and I thought, if there's one person in the list who may have done this, and I thought of you. So I'm asking you, did you give your scholarship amount to Swami? I said, yes, sir. Yesterday I have given. He said, Swami has given it to me, and he said then I'm coming, I'll talk to you. So he came and met me, and then he said, Swami has accepted it. He wants you to keep this money with you. Take it as his prasadam. So look at Swami. With what feeling I have offered, he accepted it. But he is not the person to accept material things from us. If there's one thing which he is hungry for, is for our love, not for material things. So he is giving it back to you. Don't feel anything. This is his prasadam. This is what Swami has told. I said, Swami has said, prasadam, wonderful. So I took it. But this had a sequel, and I will come to that sequel. Any student in the university, of course, I think any youngster who has reached the age, after his education is over, he is always wondering what to do next, what to do next. So in the university, this was the privilege of every student to ask Swami, Swami, please tell us, what should we do? So our whole class requested the warden, and the warden permitted for a few days. Every day the whole class would go and sit in the mandir, in the front, and Swami would come, and each one, in his own way, Swami, please tell me what I should do next in my life. My education is now coming to an end. And in his own way, Swami would respond. After a few days, we felt it was not right. We are taking away the chances of the whole student community. So we felt shy to tell the warden. So quietly, one by one, we would slip away from the hostel before the college lines would reach the mandir. And one thing which we used to do is, wherever we are seated, we would sit together. So it's not necessary right in the front. We would be somewhere in some corner, but we would all be together. And the beauty of those darshans was, every day Swami would come out, and he would search, where are these boys seated? He would come near us and talk to us. So it so happened that when Swami came on those occasions, I asked Swami, Swami, what should I do? And first thing he said, you go abroad, do PhD. And then he smiled. And I said, so this is not what Swami wants me to do. Because he smiled. So apparently it's a joke. Then the next time I asked him, he said, you do CA. And I felt so sad. My Lord, Swami is asking me to do CA. That means I have to leave his divine presence and go somewhere else. So that was very, very repulsive to me. And another thing which happened at that point of time was, we were in our final year PG, doing my MCom, and the MBA program started. So MBA being a generic degree, anybody can apply. Undergraduate students, postgraduate students, science students, anybody can apply. So my entire group of classmates in the commerce section had applied for the MBA except me. Because Swami didn't tell me to apply. And something unusual happened. The first person to ask me was our warden. He said, Sanjay, you didn't apply for MBA? I said, no sir, Swami didn't tell me, I didn't apply. He said, that means whatever Swami tells you, you will do? I said, yeah, whatever Swami tells me, I will do. If he tells you to be a teacher here, will you be a teacher? I said, yes. If he tells me, I will do it. And then he said, okay, then it's fine. The next person who became curious about my non-application for the MBA program was the registrar of our university. He said, all other students have applied. Why this fellow has not applied? And then he himself rationalized and was telling one of my student brothers, he said, this fellow doesn't need to do an MBA. That's why MBA is not for him. That's why he has not applied. The third person to ask was the Dean of Management. He said, you didn't apply for MBA? I said, no sir, Swami didn't tell me. At least you could have applied. Then based on what Swami has instructed you, you can do the needful. But at least application should have been sent. I said, sir, Swami didn't tell me, so I didn't want to apply. Fourth person to apply, ask me, was the controller of examinations. You didn't apply for MBA? I said, no sir, I didn't apply. Why? Swami didn't tell me, I didn't apply. See, all these people are on the MBA interview panel. When students go for MBA entrance, each one of them, like 6, 8 of them, like formidable opposition party, they'll be sitting there and each student's heart will be palpitating. My God, what's going to happen? If they don't give me an MBA seat, then where will I go? Those kind of thing. But here was I in a very peculiar situation. I didn't apply for MBA, but all these people are coming after me and you didn't apply for MBA, didn't apply for MBA. And then it was a great insight which I got for life. See, as long as you are wanting something from the world is always 2 feet ahead of you and you're always 2 steps behind and you will always be a little short and you will always find that what you want is elusive. But the day you say, I don't want the world, I want the Lord, and you will find that the world comes chasing you. I gave up the MBA because Swami didn't tell me to apply. The world came chasing me. The people who mattered came chasing me and said, why did you not apply? If this soul has not applied, there are hundreds of souls who have applied. But this was the insight which I got, that when you choose the Lord, everything else will come. And many times when we are young, people think, if I choose the Lord, I will lose everything in the world. It's not like that. Swami used to give this beautiful illustration of a coconut tree. He said, see, there are 2 ways. If you want the fruit of the coconut, there are 2 ways in which you can get it. One, you can climb the tree. The other, there is a shadow of the coconut tree which is there on the ground. You can follow the shadow and you can get the fruit. So these are 2 ways. But Swami said, when you follow the shadow, remember the fruit that you will get is at the end of the day only a shadow coconut fruit. It is not the real fruit. Whereas if you climb the tree, you get the real coconut, and just as you get the real coconut, the shadow you has also climbed the tree and has also got the shadow fruit. So both will happen, and that is why have your priorities straight in life. Again, as I said, each one's life choice is very different. But whatever we do in life, if you align it with Swami, think that this work is Swami's work and I do it with that bhavam, you will experience the Lord wherever you are and in whatever work you do. So this was a very important insight. Finally, on the 1st of June, Swami called us for an interview. We were 8 of us in the classmates. And Swami asked us, each one of us, what he wanted, what we want to do. And for 7 of them, my classmates, Swami said, do PhD, go and meet your professors and choose your research topics. To me, he asked, what did your parents say? I said, Swami, this is what my father, when I went home, he asked me, he opened the door, I rang the bell, he opened the door. The first question he asked me, what did Swami tell you to do now in life after your education? I didn't want to tell him. He told me, go abroad, do PhD, do CA. I didn't want to because that was not my heart's desire. I said, he didn't tell me anything. So he said, fool, go back to Vrindavan after Swami comes back from Kodaikanal and ask him what you're supposed to do. Will any father tell his graduating son? He would say, come, now let us plan what we are supposed to do. But this was a great blessing that Swami gave. So when Swami asked me, what did your parents say? I said, Swami, father said, whatever you say, I should do. And then he made this very, very significant statement. And I'm sharing it because I felt that this is a statement which is not made only to me. It's meant for everybody, and it is in that sense I'm sharing it in a public platform. He said, when you yourself was so determined, so firm, what else your parents could have said? And there, he revealed his secret. Sometimes we say, we are wanted God, but we didn't get God. We don't know why we didn't God. Anybody who aspires for the Lord will get Him. If we did not get Him, that means something was deficient in our aspiration for Him. So he said, you are so determined. What else you have? And then came his real blessing and insight. He said, because you have been good, I am appointing you as a teacher in my college. I share this because if there's any person in the whole world, we say the world is topsy-turvy, we want to do the righteous things, but things don't happen the way we want. But there's one person who will always recognize us, one person who will always stand by us, one person who will always protect us, one person who will always be hand in hand, step in step, walking with us on the righteous path. Whoever decides, he need not even know this form, Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. In that one statement, when he said, because you have been good, I am giving you this opportunity to be a teacher in my college, I felt that he made this statement to every individual in the universe who wants to walk the path of the Lord, who wants to walk hand in hand with the Lord, in step with the path which Bhagavan has shown us. So that was something very, very special. And we came to Prashant and we were sitting, every day we were sitting in the mandir, and one day suddenly Swami called us. He said, see, I don't like people, youngsters, wasting their time. Tomorrow is a very, very auspicious day. Tomorrow all of you join the college. The 7 of them were to join research, and he said, you join for teaching, and he gave us that blessing. And on a Thursday, it was the 18th of June, divine number, Thursday, Swami's day, and he himself told, this day is very, very auspicious for Lord Shiva. He chose that day. On that muhurtam, I stepped into the portals of Bhagwan's university as a teacher and continued to teach for the next 28 years. Imagine, for 28 years he gave me that blessing. And why I consider it as a blessing? Because Swami would say, students are my property. So, when you're a student, it's different. But he's giving you his property and asking you to be a custodian. It's not easy task, but I will come to that a little later. So it is an immense blessing. Of course, today the responsibility is far more comprehensive. It's a little different. And now my interaction is not so much with the current students, but more with our alumni. So I deal with them, hundreds of them from all over the world, both girls as well as boys. And take great delight in hearing and seeing how Bhagavan has impacted them, how Bhagavan is helping them in their lives and is with them all the time. Now, as I mentioned, when Swami gave me that prasadam of scholarship, so I became a teacher. And through the warden, he communicated, see, for this fellow anyway is going to get his salary from the university, so I'm not going to give him personally, because the other people were still yet to finalize the research topic, etc. So he used to give them some monthly pocket money. For me, I believe Swami told the warden, anyway he'll get his salary from the institute, so that will take care of it. But day after day, week after week, month after month, I didn't get any salary. One day, one of my colleagues in the senior professors in the department, he came to know, he said, "You're not getting a salary. My God, how will you manage? And what will happen to you?" And I said, "Nothing will happen to me. We are with Swami." But see, Swami also is, I chose Bhagavan as my guru. When I first came to him, he said, he is my guru. So he's a master, trainer. He's the guru of gurus. So he was also preparing me, and I also was adamant. I had my bank account. My father had opened a joint bank account for me when I joined as a student. I said, now I belong to Swami. I will not touch that bank account. One naya paisa I'm not going to take from that. So for several months I was managing with those little amount of prasadam, that scholarship amount which Swami had returned to me. And one day, that money also got over. I had no money to even purchase clothes, and you're a faculty in the university. At that point of time, my parents visited Prashant. And without telling me anything, my father came and he said, "Come, let's go for a walk." So we went to the stadium, and there is this beautiful Krishna statue next to the Shanty Vedika, if you have been to the stadium. And we were having a chat. And then out came a bombshell. He had a 2,000 rupees check. He said, "I checked up our bank account. Since June, nothing is credited to your account, and you also have not withdrawn any money. I think you will need money. Take this check," he said. I said, "Dad, Swami said he will take care of me. I cannot accept this amount from you. Please forgive me." And I told him, "See, I had this scholarship amount. I'm managing with that. Swami had returned it to me, so don't pressurize me. I cannot accept this money." Within 2 days, suddenly, Swami said, "I want to talk to all the teachers of the campus." And so, along with all the teachers, I also went into the interview room. And Swami discussed so many things. Suddenly, out of the blue, he said, "Look at this fellow. For last so many months he has been working in the university, and I asked for the records, and I found that till today he has not been paid a single naya paisa." Nobody will do that without Swami's specific instructions. He is the test. Swami used to say, "I do not test you. Testing is done by your professors. They want to assess where you are. I already know your worth. So why I should test you?" Then Swami, what do you do? I put you in fire. I put you in fire. Why do I put you in fire? So that you may emerge great, grand, and godly. You may emerge great, grand, and godly. So that day, when I rejected my father's check and said, Dad, I belong to Swami. Swami will take care of me. It doesn't matter if I don't have money, but I depend on Swami. He made it, a public event in front of all the campus teachers. The whole Prashant campus teachers were there. And Swami said, I have told them to give the next day. From the university office, a message came, Sir, from which day you joined the university? And it was such an auspicious day for me, Shiva's day, 18th of June. How can I forget that day? I said I joined with retrospective effect. With retrospective effect, from the day I joined service, the entire salary was credited to my bank account. So what I mean to say is, the Lord is such a beautiful Lord. He loves you so intensely. At the same time, He is also a master coach and He wants to train you. I realized that all that was actually a process of training and mentoring and purification for the work which I had to do over many years subsequent to that. So that was something which was very, very special related to that phase of my life. Another important event which took place in the early years of my teaching, one day Swami said, I will take you to Kodaikanal. So we went to Kodaikanal. It was the year 1989 and it was a very, very long trip. It was 1 month and I think 1 week and 10 days. At that point of time, it was a very, very long period of stay with Bhagwan. We went to Ooty first, from there we went to Kodaikanal, then we came back to Ooty and then finally returned to Bangalore. And so it was a wonderful opportunity at that point of time. And we are talking of the Bhagavatam, the Sai Bhagavatam. That particular year, Swami took up the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna's story. Imagine every day we would look forward to, those narrations of Bhagwan right from the day of his birth, and such amazing things and amazing insights from the Lord's story. For example, he was describing how when this little baby girl is brought from Nanda's house, there's an exchange which takes place. Father Vasudeva has left baby Krishna at Nanda's house and brings this baby girl, and message reaches Kamsa. And there is no greater storyteller than Bhagwan. So he was describing, and Kamsa comes and he takes this little baby and he throws it into the air, thinking that once the baby comes down, he will take the sword and he will chop off the baby into pieces. At that moment, the baby just flies into the sky, and the next thing they see is Devi. Devi is there in the sky. And you know what Devi says? This is Swami's special. Devi said, what do you think of yourself? You want to kill me? I am sparing you because you caught hold of my feet. Imagine the Lord's compassion. Here is a fellow who wants to kill the Lord. And the Lord, and Swami explained, see, in every avatar, there are different Shaktis which incarnate. And he said 3 Shaktis incarnate. In Krishna avatar, there was Sri Krishna, who is Deva Shakti, and this little baby girl was Maya Shakti, and the third was Balarama, who is Yoga Shakti. He said in every avatar, these 3 Shaktis incarnate. In this avatar, all the 3 Shaktis are here only. So, one moment you see him, you say, Devudu, Devudu. And next moment you say him, are you Devudu? Are you God? So the devotee is taken through all kinds of upheavals, because especially, Swami, I thought you will do this for me and it didn't materialize the way you expect. And then you say, Swami, you may not be God. Because if you were God, you would have certainly done this for me. If you were God, you would have certainly satisfied this desire of mine. Little realizing what He has in store for us is far, far, far superior than what we can really desire from Him. So, what? It was such a beautiful, Swami saying, you caught hold of my feet. Maya Shakti is saying, you caught hold of my feet, so I forgive you, my dear. Your assassin is born elsewhere. And, she disappears. So like that, every day there would be wonderful stories. And throughout the day, various sessions we used to have, and some of the devotees would come off even early. There was one gentleman who would come off even for the breakfast session. So one day, Swami, instead of going and sitting on the sofa in the ground floor after breakfast, he just climbed up and went up to his room. So because he climbed up, all the students also walked up. And we were sitting around his bedroom. And that is the beauty of our stay with Kodaikanal. Swami is there and you are next door with him. So he came out and then he saw all of us seated there. And he pretended, actually I think it was his divine will, he said, come, we'll sit here only. Today's session we'll have here. So he sat up on the sofa there. And that day's narration was a very, very special devotee. And that was Radha. In the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, which Swami narrated over a month, and in my understanding, among all devotees of all times, the highest category of devotees of the Lord are the Gopikas of Vrindavan. And among the Gopikas of Vrindavan, the highest category of devotee is Radha. And Swami narrated wonderful events unheard of, not documented in any Bhagavatam by any author from Vyasa to... I have not read, not heard anybody telling that. And those memories now are not there after so many years with me. But there's one fundamental thing Swami narrated and which has remained with me forever. He said, what does Radha stand for? What was Radha? What was the principle of Radha? And then he said, the secret of Radha's bhakti is in the name Radha. And then he took this example. He said, you take Ra and put it at the end of the word, it becomes Adhar. You take A and you put it at the end of the word, it becomes Dhara. You take Dha and you put it at the end of the word, it becomes Aradhana. So Radha ka Adhar is Dhar Aradhana. He said that is what Radha was. Her devotion to the Lord, her thought process of the Lord was unbroken. Like you take oil and you pour oil, say, from one vessel to another vessel, how the oil, comes down in an unbroken stream. That kind of a Radha's thought process was for Sri Krishna. And that is why I discovered that Swami put her in such a high pedestal. And then he made the statement, if any one of you were to practice this kind of a devotion, I will know, he said. So, few weeks later, or few days later, we returned to Vrindavan. And Vrindavan Darshan in those days was not fixed. Swami would not be giving darshan for devotees outside. Mostly it will be only for the people who are just in his Trai compound. So we used to go to the mandir around maybe 2:30, but there was no fixed time when Swami will come out. It could be 3:30, and that day when we were about 100 of us standing outside Trai, it took almost beyond 5 when we heard the creak of the door and Swami came out. Now, because of so much time, I just thought, what are we going to do? And we are all standing, we have nothing else to do. You can't read a book, because any moment Swami can come out, or he can peep from his window. It doesn't look good that you're distracted. So we have to just stand there. And John Milton, in his beautiful work, Paradise, or not, in his poem on his blindness, he says, they also serve who stand and wait. They also serve who stand and wait. So we are waiting, apparently not doing anything, but you're waiting. And so I thought to myself, that day Swami said, those who practice continuous thought of the Lord will know. Let me test it. So I had done a lot of experiments with Swami. Just as he tested us, we have also tested him no end. So I said, let me practice this, let me see what happens. So I started thinking of Swami and forgot everything else. And I was just focused on Swami. After nearly 2-3 hours, there was this creak of the tray door and Swami comes out. Now normally he would come down, he would walk down. As I said, all of us would be standing in a single queue, elders, teachers, students, whoever were there. And but that day, surprisingly, he didn't climb down the steps. He was there on the landing, and he looked straight, and he took his finger like that, and he indicated to somebody. And then he literally made almost a 45-degree turn, and I was almost at the edge of that queue near the ashram tray gate, and he looked at me and he did like that. So both of us ran to the landing where Swami was standing, reaching there almost at the same time. And he said, the UNESCO or some United Nations director, some organization director is coming for tea today. Come inside, you have to make arrangements. So we went inside, and then Swami took us into his small guest room. The guests were to be seated in one hall. In the next room, all dainty dishes had come from city. And he said, look at these items, and you all have to serve. Few minutes later, before that, one of the other boy who had been called a research scholar, he had served some pudding into a small bowl. So Swami looked at that pudding and he said, what is this? You have served as if you are serving animals. They are not going to eat like you all. So, the boys were used to serving in the hostel. Like if pudding is there, means little more you can put, we don't get pudding every day. So, he was serving hostel style. Swami said, they're not animals, they won't eat like that. So, put less. Finally, they came, the poor man, he had just had lunch. He said, Swami, I don't want to have any food. Then we brought juice for him. And they said, oh, you don't have food. Then we gave a double juice to him. So he went away, and that whole food was left. And Swami came and he said, my God, so many items came from the city and there's nobody to eat. He said, okay, you all eat this food. So we were 2 of us, and he called all the other students, and they were having their try session, and we are sitting here and eating the food, whatever. Because somebody has to do justice, it is prasadam and it's Swami's instruction. And we were tasting every other item which that poor man and his troop was supposed to have. So I went back in the night and I was thinking, what happened, totally out of the blue. And then it struck me, what was I doing? I was standing there thinking of him and asking myself, Swami, you said, if I am continuously thinking of you, you will know. This was his way of telling, there are 100 people there. He could have called enemy. I have no idea why he called the other scholar. But why he called me was very, very clear in my mind. And that day, I got an acknowledgement that this is what it is to be in the Radha Bhav. So that was a very beautiful experience at the end of the Kodai trip. Coming to some episodes from later times, Swami's love for his students was something which I had an opportunity to see and have a ringside view. So one day, it was summer course time, and we came back it was maybe 2 days left for the summer course to end. Suddenly we got message, Swami wants all the officials of the university to assemble in Trai Vrindavan. So all the wardens, the principals, the vice chancellor, everybody was ushered into the first floor drawing room, and then Swami discussed with us a lot of university matters. The session got over, Swami got up. As he got up, the first thing he did was he came rushing to me. And what he told me actually literally blew my mind off. He said, Sanjay, can you do something for me? The Lord of the universe, if he just were to ask, there'll be 100 people in the queue to him, he comes to you and asks, can you do something for me? So I was, who will say no to Bhagwan? I said, Swami, please tell me, what should I do? And then he said, your hostel, the sambar and the rasam, throughout the year, same smell, same taste. Can you do something? I was totally flabbergasted. I said, Swami, here the Lord of the universe, he created sun, moon, created you, me. He decides he can whiff of his hand, he can do anything. He's coming to poor souls like us. I was warden of the Prashant Hostel at that time. He said, can you do something? So I thought about it. I said, Swami, I will do something about it. And I don't know cooking. See, these are the kinds of assignments. When you decide to serve Swami, it's not that you are qualified to do that service. Somebody who was recently, sometime ago, was selected as a faculty in one of our institutions, educational institutions. So one of his classmates asked, what qualification you have to be appointed in the university? And he was really wondering, because in the worldly sense, he didn't have qualification, but he had that prayer to, Swami, please give me this opportunity, but so many events took place and he got appointed. And then one senior faculty said, Swami, he does not select the qualified, he qualifies those who have been selected. He sees the potential in each one of us, and when we align our internal being, the antakarna, the heart with him, everything he will do. Actually, he is the doer. He just wants us to be available to him as an instrument. So that is what, so I thought to myself, I don't know cooking. I knew what is good food because my mother was a very, very good cook. So I thought to myself, now what to do, how to improve the sambar and the rasam. So I used to finish my Darshan Bhajans in the mandir every day. I'll come back and I'll sit with the kitchen in charge. I'll sit with the cooks and we'll discuss the menu, we will discuss so many aspects about food. And over a period of several days, weeks, the food improved. So much so that, people in other campuses, they started, what have you done with the food? We are not able to match the quality of your food. Swami told, we have to do. And so one day, we were sitting in the mandir. Swami is looking at the students. I was about 5 feet from him. He's looking at the students and he made a statement. He said, students have become fat, he said. I thought to myself, thank you, Swami. Without knowing ABC of cooking, we could satisfy the Lord. See, that will happen for any one of us this is something which has grown on me over the years. Not that we are really qualified to do what Swami wants us to do. I'm sure in the Sathya Sai organization also there will be so many such situations in life. But the very fact that, you do your work sincerely, that is what God wants you. He wants you to do that work which is assigned to you sincerely. That's all it is. Sometimes it so happens that in spite of your best effort, things will not materialize the way you want. And one such occasion was the Sri Sathya Sai Unity Cup in Prashant. we had this India 11 versus World 11. And we had Sachin Tendulkar, captain of the Indian cricket team, and we had Arjuna Ranatunga, who had just won the World Cup for Sri Lanka. He was the captain of the world team, and the cricket stadium has been erected in Prashant. And so the D-Day arrived, and I was given the responsibility of serving food, transporting food, both for the cricketers in the stadium as well as for the Prime Minister, who was the chief guest on the occasion, who was being hosted in the Sai Srinivas guest house in the Ashram. So the previous day I was told that, we are allotting, because you're doing a very significant work, you are going to serve the Prime Minister, you're serving the cricketers, so we are giving you this vehicle, and we are giving you our ashram's chief driver. He will be with you, so do the needful. So I got up in the morning, fully charged up, and now, today, we never saw the match. We were all the time busy with our work. The first bombshell came. The ashram driver comes and tells, "Sir, I have been reassigned some other work, so here is the key of our car, Jeep. Please make your own arrangements for driving the vehicle." You are serving the Prime Minister of India. Can there be more important work than that on the D-Day of the cricket match? But something has become more important than serving Prime Minister of India. God's tests, I tell you, amazing. So he left that, and look, Swami knows that this fellow doesn't know how to drive a car. Because that also came to me from Swami. One day he was gifting as part of the sports meet. Every year he used to give a cup to every campus. So that year he decided, I'm going to give a car to all the campuses as a gift for all the hard work the students and teachers have put. So that year, on the prize distribution day, all the wardens were called and they were given the keys of the car. So I also got the key, and I came behind the stage, and then Swami was returning and he looked at me, "Hey, that car is not for you to drive. It's not for you to drive." I don't know, somehow it subtly was a message for me. Don't go for car driving yourself. This is, whether it's true or should have been taken like that or not taken like that, I don't go into the details. But Swami knew that this fellow doesn't know car driving. So the vehicle is there. So I caught hold of one alumnus. I said, "I have to take breakfast for the Prime Minister. Can you please help me?" He said, "Come, I will drive, I will deliver the items, but I have some other assignment. I have to go elsewhere." So I delivered the food for the Prime Minister in the guest house, and I came back to the Shanty Bhavan in the ashram and asked, "Where is the vehicle to take the food for the cricketers?" And they said, that vehicle, there was some shortage of vehicles, so people had to be transported to the stadium. So we have sent off that vehicle to carry some other people. That vehicle is no longer there. I said, "What do you mean? How are we going to transport food to the stadium without that?" So I went in search of the vehicle. Where is that fellow, who has been assigned to us? And Prime Minister has already entered the stadium, and the police security are at the gate, and they are stopping everybody. Everybody who wants. The stadium is full. People want to enter, and they are saying, "No, Prime Minister has come, nobody can come in." So I said, "I am serving the Prime Minister only. If you don't allow me, he will not get his lunch. Please allow me." He said, No, we cannot allow you." And I did something unthinkable, something which is totally out of alignment with my temperament. I gave one push to the gate, and it was so, they were so stunned. All the time went off in closing the gate, because the rest of the public also wanted to enter, but I escaped. So I went in, I reached the stadium, and I went to the back of the Shanti Vedika, and I see my vehicle there, and I was so happy there. But the vehicle is locked. Where is the driver? He is sitting inside the stadium and watching the cricket match. Where in this earth am I going to search for this driver in the cricket stadium? So I was looking at myself, I looked at the teachers, they said, "Don't worry, we will give you some cards, some faculty cards with that. You take these 2 cards and you rush And then, I rushed to the canteens because we had to pick up fruit from 3 canteens. So I picked up and I reached, at that point of time, I reached the Sai Srinivas guest house, delivered the food to the Sai Srinivas guest house for the Prime Minister, and suddenly message came, "Sir, the morning session of the cricket match is over. The cricketers have come back to the pavilion. They're all asking for lunch." I said, "What do you mean? 1 hour is still left for lunch. No, the first innings is over. You please come and get the lunch." I said, "No, there is no lunch. I have to go and pick up still." So with those vehicles, I went to the canteen, picked up the food, and I was, sending whatever vehicle was there, sending. Finally, I also landed up at the Shanty Bhavan, and then, that day in the menu was bhaturas. So I said, "Did you get the bhaturas?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Have you kept the bhaturas for the world team?" And they said, "For the world team? No, we thought you were sending more bhaturas." Everything was coming in installment. So we have sent off the entire bhaturas for the Indian cricket team. He said, no, it is meant for the whole pavilion. You have to divide it for the 2 teams. So our faculty went, and Sachin and all, they're seeing the bhaturas, and, their hearts are melting. And in front of them, they are taking the bhaturas and passing it on to the Pakistani side. And Sachin, what is this? Our bhaturas are being taken away. What is our share? So I tell you. And then I rushed back to get ice creams. So I was getting the ice creams, and suddenly near the bus stand, they stopped our vehicle. They said, "Prime Minister is coming. You cannot get free entry now." And so we are waiting. The ice creams are melting in the vehicle. So the Prime Minister had gone to super hospital. He came back to his guest house. Then we took the melted ice creams and whatever was left. So that day, I tell you, it was a comedy of errors. And we were seated after everybody left. I was seated in the mandir and feeling so depressed. "Swami, we let you down so badly, so badly." Then a few minutes later, Swami comes out and he went to the warden. And he said, "I am very happy with the work which students and teachers have done." This is the first thing which he said. Then he came back, and some of us teachers were seated, all of us were seated there. And suddenly he said, "Who all did work today?" And then all of us spontaneously said, "Swami, we all worked together." And Swami said, "Manchidi, Manchidi." And that one statement which he made lifted that pall of gloom, and in a few seconds, that whole sorrow, depression, "Swami, I have let you down with such terrible mess up today," everything disappeared. And I then realized that that whole episode was actually enacted, because imagine, right from the first day, you're in the morning, first event, Prime Minister's vehicle driver pulled out, as if Prime Minister, more than the Prime Minister, somebody else is important, but all that happened. Swami wanted it to happen. He willed that it should be like that. And the only thing which Swami recognized and appreciated was the sincerity of effort, that in spite of all the obstacles, in spite of all the difficulties, you did your best. So that's what actually God wants. He tests us. Sometimes we succeed in the test. Sometimes we fail in the test. But what is more important for Him is, with what feeling did you do that test? If you did that feeling with Samarpan, then you have passed the test. In His eyes, you may have failed in the eyes of the world, but in His eyes, you have passed His test. So that was something which happened on that particular day. So coming back to this episode of how the food had improved, and I, as a warden, I thought how to make students stay back in vacation. Swami is going to be there. We have to motivate our students to stay back in the vacation. I said one thing which we will make them stay back is to match the food that their mothers give them at home. That was the kind of strategy which we adopted. So the kitchen in charge said, "Sir, morning Swami is going to come out by 6:30, 7. You will not get good breakfast. You will get only upma and things like that if you ask for breakfast so early. So he came up with the idea, why not give a brunch? Give some light breakfast. After students return from the mandir, then we'll give them brunch. So very heavy special items and then a high tea. And that whole vacation, we were doing that. You should have seen the dining hall when the students come back after darshan. Pin drop silence. Each one is relishing the food to his heart's content, not willing to spoil that joy by talking with his neighbor, Pin drop silence. Then one day, it so happened, Swami called me and he said, I'm going to Vrindavan. Ask all the Parthi students to go back home. Instructions. So Swami went into the interview room. I came out and said, this is what Swami has told. All of you should now go home because Swami is going to Vrindavan. And everybody, started opposing it. In fact, just before that, I wanted to share something. When the students from Vrindavan came, Swami went up and asked, how many students have come? The warden said, Swami, so many have come. Then he came to me, he said, how many students are here? Parthi students. I said, Swami, 200 students. 200 students. He again goes to the warden and asks, how many students? So some students had come. Again he comes back to me, how many students? 200 students. I said, how many school students? I said, Swami, 10 school students. No, that's not possible. I said, Swami, there are only 10 school students in the hostel. There are so many students who are staying with parents in the ashram. That is possible. So, Swami was so delighted that year in Prashant campus, 200 students have stayed back. Of course, I did not tell him, Swami, it is for you they have stayed back. They've also stayed back for food. Because, the feeling was, we are not going to get this special treatment at home. So, this happened just before this, few days before this. Then one day he dropped this bombshell, I'm going to Vrindavan. So I gave the instruction. They said, no sir, we want to stay here. We stayed back for Swami. I said, it's between you and Swami. A few minutes later, Swami comes out, he's walking amidst the students. Wherever he went, one schoolboy gets up, 8th class fellow, Swami, please permit me to come to Vrindavan. Another PG boy gets up, Swami, please permit me to come to Vrindavan. See how God, in his own way, at that age where people actually run after cricketers, run after sports stars, film stars, Swami made them run for God, made them pine for God, pine for his presence. So he came back from that darshan and then he called me. And he changed the instruction. See the power of prayer, the power of intensity of prayer. He said, if any students want to come to Vrindavan, you can permit them. So, it's a full reversal. And then he did something amazing. He went to the Vrindavan warden and said, see these Prashant boys, they want to come to Vrindavan. Is there place in your hostel for them? Can you accommodate them in the hostel? He was so embarrassed. He said, Swami, it is your hostel. If you say, we will open the doors. And one of the teachers later was sharing. He said that was such an amazing vacation because the students who are there are pining for the Lord's presence, and the Lord also showered immense grace with his proximity, unforgettable moments in the divine presence. So all this I'm sharing is how, as a warden, just by a small instruction Swami gave, can you do something sambar rasam? That small instruction, without knowing ABC of sambar rasam cooking, we were able to make such a transformation in the mess affairs. So time moves on. And the next episode which I would like to share is something which happened in the year 2002. I had just taken charge as the principal of the Vrindavan College, and that November celebrations, as part of the November birthday celebrations, one day is dedicated for the university's convocation, and in the evening proceedings we have a drama. So every year, students of all the men campuses would be associated with the drama in various capacities, acting, music, costumes, etc. That year, Swami gave a very specific instruction. He said, no Vrindavan student should be there in the drama. And it was very, very shocking for us. What is this? Throughout, is Swami unhappy with us? And I still remember we had a faculty meeting in Prashant after the birthday function, and teachers were expressing, sir, when will our students get a chance to put up a drama if Swami doesn't allow the convocation drama for our students? So it was decided, so what if Swami doesn't allow for convocation? Sports meet is there. We will come with the drama for sports meet. And that is how, for the first time, we prepared from Vrindavan a drama on Jayadeva. So we came fully prepared and we prayed to Swami. Swami came for the rehearsals also. And finally, the drama is now going to be presented. The D-Day has come. It is going to be presented in the Sai Kulwant Hall. And just before the drama was to start, Swami came and took his seat in the center of the stage. The students were ready. And Swami looked right and he saw me and he said, come. So all the teachers were seated a little distance. He called me right up to his feet. So I took a position in such a way that I can see the drama, because he would not like me to miss the drama. At the same time, I wanted to see Swami. So I'm looking at Swami, I'm looking at the drama when it started. And that drama was amazing from several angles. One amazing thing which happened was this sets of the drama. Even today, if you see in YouTube, it was a forest scene, and our sets boys had, with such creativity, they designed the set in such a way that this moment it is a forest scene, the scene changes, they just move some sticks, and the next moment an entire temple has been erected in the place of that forest. And the whole Kulwant Hall was stunned seeing that. They broke into a spontaneous applause just for the transition from this forest to a huge temple structure. It was the ingenuity of our sets group. Another thing happened was, there was one of our students who was a singer. He was also in part of that scene. Suddenly the CD stopped. And it's a pre-recorded drama. The CD stops, it's the track, it goes from track to track, and it became a pin drop silence. There's no music, and it is supposed to be a song. Fortunately, the boy who had sung the song, he was there in the scene as an actor. When he found that the CD has dropped, he immediately got up. And from the point where the CD stopped, he started singing spontaneously. So people thought, it's some live performance going on. After a few minutes of this, suddenly the CD comes back alive. The most amazing, now technologically, those who are familiar with it will know it better. It cannot happen. It should go into some starting of the track or go to the next track. The CD, when it came back alive, it was at the point where this fellow is singing the line. At that point, the CD goes live, and so people think as if nothing has happened. So God's tests are amazing. And it was a technological impossibility which we saw happening live in front of our eyes. But what happened, my precious memory of that day is what happened when the drama just started. So there was this student, Swami used to say, it is said in the Puranas, wherever my name is sung, I manifest. But Swami made a special statement. He said, wherever my work is done, I manifest. So that is also true. Wherever his name is sung, he manifests. But where his work is done also, you will see him. You will feel his presence. You will find that divine manifestation. So there was this student who was in the lead role. He was to play the role of Jayadeva. And he was not getting that feeling, he was not getting that emotion. He has to act, as if he is pining for the Lord, he is dying for the Lord. But he told the director, "Sir, I'm not getting any emotion. What will I do in the drama?" So the director is trying his level best, to put him in that mood. So he said, "What makes you feel very, very sentimental and very, very emotional?" He said, "When I think of my mother." He said, "You don't think of Krishna. You just think of your mother and try to feel that, you're calling out to your mother, you're, pining for your mother." So with that feeling, he started doing that role, and that scene arrives now in the drama. So Jayadeva arrives on the scene and he says, "Krishna, Krishna." So on the one hand, I'm seeing this, of course I've seen it in rehearsal so many times, but I was never prepared for that moment. What I saw to my left, what is happening with Swami. This fellow starts, "Krishna." The moment he said Krishna, Swami was sitting normally. Suddenly, he became alert and came some 1 or 2 inches forward. Then his next dialogue came, "Krishna." And Swami, he again 2 inches forward. And if this fellow, fortunately there was no other third Krishna, I thought the third time this fellow says Krishna, Swami would have got up from the seat and he said, "Jayadeva, I am here." That was the reaction that I was seeing in Swami. And then something amazing. I've seen it with my eyes and I can vouchsafe for it, even if so many would have been there. I was at that position. I think for that reason Swami called me. When, he's reacting like that, I saw at that moment his heart was palpitating, and the gown, which was on the face of his heart region, it was flapping as if, air is blowing and the gown is flapping like that. I said, "My God, Swami, this is only a drama. This is only a drama, Swami, is not the real Jayadeva." And then it struck me, if for a acting Jayadeva, this is the reaction on the Lord, what must have been the caliber of the original Jayadeva? How he must have won the heart of the Lord. We saw it live that particular day. Unforgettable moment. The Lord is for his devotees and devotees for the Lord. In fact, Swami said that in the spiritual firmament of the world, there are some people whom Swami considered to be at the top of the highest echelon, and Jayadeva, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swami considered to be at the topmost ranks. And seeing a drama, I realized how much the Lord, hundreds of years are over, somebody is enacting a drama, but look at the love of the Lord. When he sees that drama, he is reminded of the original Jayadeva and he forgot himself. So devotees forget the Lord when we are thinking of the Lord. The Lord also forgets himself when he is thinking of his devotees. So this is what I found when, in that particular episode. So maybe another 5 minutes is there. So I'll share one last, forgive me, I'm a teacher. So most of my experiences are with students. Their experiences, my experiences, a teacher's experiences become so intertwined that we have experienced Swami with our students. So this happened it was Swami's 90th birthday year, just a few years ago. And so it was decided by all the men's campuses that in the 90th year of Bhagwan's advent, we'll put up a combined program for the sports meet. So for the preparations, it was decided that we'll come to Prashant a little earlier than usual, because the plan was that in every item, there'll be students from every campus. So initially, for a few days, people moved, because classes were still going on, they moved to respect, say, motorcycle event is being trained in one campus, so all the motorcycle boys went to that campus. So like that, there was some sharing, but I think 27th or so of December, we all landed up at Prashant for the combined practice. Now, something unthinkable happened. It was just after the Christmas, and Prashant Nilayam was jam-packed. Imagine in today's time, Prashant Nilayam was jam-packed. Somebody was sharing with me, he wanted accommodation for his father. There was no room available inside the ashram. There was no room available in any of the hotels in the Puttaparthi for people. That was the kind of massive crowd that had assembled in Prashant Nilayam between the Christmas and the New Year. At that point of time, our warden announced to the students that, see, we are going early to Parthi. So they didn't have the courage to tell us directly. So through the younger teachers, they sent word, sir, can we get one additional hall in the Bhakta Nivas halls in the Prashant Nilayam for us to stay? It will be little more comfortable because we have so many days to stay. That many more days are there in Prashanti stay. So the warden made the arrangement, but I thought to myself, I said, of course they asked for it, the warden has arranged it, but as elders, it's our duty to educate our younger generation. And so it was the day of departure. So as the principal of the campus, I thought, or director, I wanted to speak to the students. I said, see, you all expressed your desire. The warden has made the arrangement. But from our side, one thing we want to share with you. What it is to stay in that hostel of yours next to East Prashanti, next to the mandir. And this is what I explained to them. I said, I will share with you 3 episodes. The first happened in the year 1975. It was Swami's 50th birthday. So heavy preparations. Some of y'all would have seen those beautiful video shots. Swami is landing, giving darshan in a helicopter in Puttaparthi, and he's landing in Prashanti and in the mandir. So it was a time of immense celebration. So people at that time, Parthi College had not yet started. So there were only 2 campuses. One was for girls in Anantapur, one was the Vrindavan College. So our elders were planning where to accommodate the Vrindavan students. So they hit upon a plan. They said, we'll accommodate them in Anantapur. We'll book some halls over there and we'll arrange buses. Every day they can come to Prashant Nilayam, attend the function, evening they will go back. So they proposed to Swami, Swami, this is our plan. We want to keep Vrindavan students in Anantapur. Every day they can travel up and down. Swami said, is there no place in Prashant Nilayam for my Vrindavan students? He said, no, Swami, thousands of people are going to come. Very difficult to find accommodation. Then Swami said, if it is like that, then it is better we don't have 50th birthday celebrations. Our elders are shocked. No 50th birthday celebration? We have been planning for months, and just because we plan to put these students in Anantapur and they will arrange transport for them, Swami is saying, no need, I don't want 50th birthday. Then they realized the gravity of the situation. So they scanned Prashant Nilayam and they said, this is a place, Prashant Nilayam, East Prashanti, next to the Gopuram gate. This place we will give to Vrindavan students. So I told them, since that time till today, nobody has ever dared to ask when Vrindavan students come to Prashant Nilayam, where will they stay? This decision was taken 1975 by Swami. Episode 1. Episode 2. A very ardent devotee of Swami was Mrs. Ratanlal. One day, post Mahasamadhi, she was sharing and reminiscing. She was with Swami in the mandir, and she was in front of the mandir. Swami is with her, and Swami looked at the mandir and he pointed. He said, one day I will lie down here and give darshan to my devotees. So she felt very odd. He said, Swami, you can sit and give darshan. You can stand and give darshan. why you want to lie down and give darshan? It doesn't sound, it doesn't look appropriate. He said, Swami, why you want to lie down and give darshan? No, I will lie down and give darshan here to my devotees. And after Mahasamadhi, she revealed the same spot which Swami had pointed out, today is the place of the Mahasamadhi. So I told them, see, Swami is lying down there, his living presence is there, and the only student community, forget student community, the only group which is permitted to sleep in the Sai Kulwant hall is the Vrindavan students. And that too if you stay in your old hostel. If you go to Bhakta Nivas, you don't get that permission. You become a student of Prashant Lim, you will not get that chance. You finish your education, go outside, you will not get the chance. Only if you stay in the old hostel, you will get the chance to sleep every night next to Swami. Can you understand what a blessing it is for your life? And then I gave them the third episode. And this episode was narrated by an ardent devotee of Swami, who was in charge of the gold foil work which has been done in Sai Kulwant Hall. Of course, he had a beautiful experience with that as well. One day Swami was inspecting and seeing the work being done in the Kulwant Hall, and Swami came near him and he looked at him and he saw his ring. He said, who gave you that ring? He said, Swami, you only have given that ring. He said, what is the significance of the green color ring? He said, Swami, you say that green is for peace. Then Swami said, see, there is green in the ring. There is green on the roof of Kulwant Hall. There is gold in the ring. There is gold in the ceiling of Kulwant Hall. I cannot give green ring to everybody. So what I have done, I have put both the green and the gold in the ceiling of Kulwant Hall. In years to come, people will come and sit in this Kulwant Hall. They will come with their worries, they will come with their anxieties, they will come with their personal baggage, challenges, whatever they have. And when they come and sit in this Kulwant Hall, this green and this gold which I have put on the ceiling of the Kulwant Hall will emanate those rays and give them peace of mind. That is why I put this green and gold. Imagine the significance of sitting today also in the presence of Bhagwan in the Kulwant Hall. He has made a sankalpam, and that sankalpam is for all time to come. So that Kulwant Hall work was going on, and simultaneously Swami said we'll extend the Kulwant Hall because he felt it had become too small for the kind of large audiences that would be coming in the future. So he had gone to Vrindavan and he had given instructions for the extension. Now there were 2 trees which were there at the border. So workers went to cut the trees. So they took an axe and they hit the tree, one of the trees. Dhala! A massive sound, explosion took place. And there were 400 workers doing gold foil work. In fact, when I shared it once, the UP Sevadal organization, the devotees were saying, yeah, we were there when that happened. When that event happened, we were also there. And there were 400, the whole, gold foil workers, they were stunned. Means, what is this? In the mandir, an explosion has taken place. So then the workers got so afraid, they took that axe and they went to the second tree. And then again they hit the tree. The moment the axe touched the tree, ta-bam! Another sound came. The workers, illiterate, uneducated people, they said, no sir, this is something fishy. God does not want us to do this. We will not touch the tree. So the work came to a standstill and the extension work which Swami wanted cannot be done. So message was sent to Swami in Vrindavan. Swami sent word, leave one tree, cut the other tree, and change the alignment of the compound wall so that you can retain that tree, so it need not be disturbed. So according to Swami's instruction, that was done and the compound wall was completed. When Swami came back to Vrindavan, one day he called this devotee whom he had given that green ring, and they were discussing. And Swami said, sometime back this happened. There was this sound which came from the tree. And he said, yes, Swami, I was there when this happened. He said, why it happened? He said, why, Swami? He said, some years ago, if you recall, from Madurai, our Subramanya Chettiar, an ardent devotee of Swami, he conducted a global Likhita Nama Japa, movement. He printed books, sent to people all over the world. Please write, Om Sri Sai Ram in this, and you send it here, and we will offer all this. So crores and crores of Ramanama had been written by devotees from all over the world, sent to this gentleman. He packed all of it and he brought it to Swami as an offering, Samarpan. It is not an individual Samarpan, it is the Samarpan of lakhs of devotees, children, primary school, I know people in the university, all, participated in it. So Swami said, let's do something. We will make a cellar here, and we'll in front of the Gopuram gate, we'll make a cellar, we'll put all the books there, and on top of that cellar, we will install Hanuman statue. So that was done a few years ago. Swami said, the vibrations which have been emanating from that Ramanam which devotees have written in those books have been so powerful, it could not be contained in that particular room, so they came out, and it had to get lodged somewhere, so they got lodged in the leaves of the trees which are on either side of the Hanuman statue. So when these people went to cut the tree, because it is such a divinely charged, every leaf is actually charged with that divine name. So when they went to cut it, the sound came as an explosion. And then Swami explained, it is not possible for Hanuman to contain that power of that vibration. That is why I have installed Rama statue there. Rama, Lakshman, Sita and Hanuman. A new statue has been installed there, and the previous statue of Hanumanji has been brought down. So I said to our students, see, this is the power of the Ramanama Likhita Japam books which are lying under the cellar, and this was the impact that Ramanama had on inanimate trees which are on either side of the Rama statue. Right side is the tree, left side is your hostel. And if this is the impact of that Ramanama on an inanimate tree, can you imagine what is the impact of that Ramanama on all of us, on our minds? And you say that, you don't want this and it will be little more comfortable. So I said, but we have made the arrangements and this is for you. So when we were traveling in the bus, some of the students, they started accosting me, said, we don't want to go to Bhakta Nivas, we want to be in the old hostel. I said, see, the real devotees are being housed in the Bhakta Nivas. So I also wanted to use that opportunity, to pull the legs of our students. Real devotees are going to be housed in Bhakta Nivas. Pseudo devotees will be housed in the old hostel. No, sir, please, sir, this, sir. I said, see, this is all Warden's arrangement. Don't ask me. I'm not interfering. So we landed up in Prashant Lim, and suddenly I get a phone call. The buses which had to take the boys to the Bhakta Nivas went there. They unloaded everything, and in few seconds, all the students get out the warden and said, sir, we don't want to be here. We all want to stay in the old hostel. So the warden's phone call came to me. He said, this is what we have decided. All of us, lock, stock and baggage, we are returning to old hostel, and this is the impact of your katha which you narrated in the morning prayer session. I said, not bad. Our students are still sensitive to Swami and his story. See, the power of listening to God's story has that powerful impact even on young minds. So next day morning I went to our accommodation in charge. I said, sir, this is what has happened. Just before that, something happened. Somebody came to him for accommodation. Everybody, as I said, Prashant Lim jam-packed. And he said, now it is not possible for any human being to do anything. Now Swami has to take care. And the moment he said, Swami has to take care, I opened the door and entered. And he said, sir, if you don't mind, I want to narrate something. So I narrated the story of the previous evening. I said, all the students whom you had given accommodation in Bhakta Nivas hall, they've all come back, sir. Hall is now empty. And, imagine he's saying, I don't have 1 inch of space in Prashant Lim, and somebody comes and tells, one whole hall is empty. I said, this is Swami. He was in a different world. I said, see, look at Swami. 1 stone, 2 targets. At a time when students want to go to Bhakta Nivas hall, he said, he changes their mind and said, hey, my devotees are there, you come and stay here only. So he changed their mind, brought them there. And for the accommodation in charge, Swami, no, there's no place. Where will I accommodate? Everybody is pressurizing me. He manifested 1 empty hall. Now you can allot it for some devotees. So that is Swami. The one person who can reconcile all deviations, all opposites, and yet give happiness to everybody, happiness to both parties. That is Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. So it is in memory of that beloved Lord of the universe who gave us the great fortune. Sometimes people tell, see, all of you are so lucky. I say, what are you saying? With these eyes, we have seen the face of God. With these lips, we talk to God. With these hands, we touch the lotus feet of the Lord. Can there be any greater achievement? Anything else you do in life is only time pass. Time pass. We came into this time because we prayed. We prayed at some point of time in the past, Lord, when you are around, not only you prayed, and Swami used to tell students, don't think you're getting this chance because of your prayer. It is the prayer of your parents, your ancestors. And very recently I discovered something. Few months ago, I was seeing one of our Dasara programs in Prashant Lim, and somebody was referring to this. Swami was talking to a student, and later on I heard that conversation also. Swami is telling the student, you know how you got accommodation here, how you got accommodated in the university. When he was in the school in Bengal, in Kolkata, he used to go to Kali Mandir and he used to pray in front of Kalima. Kalima, please get me a good, university, a good college where I can do my higher education. Swami said, your Kalima came and prayed to me. That is why I have given you this opportunity. When I heard that, I was stunned. I was stunned because I also wanted to come to Swami after my 10th. I didn't get a chance. Then after 11th, as Swami advised, I applied again. I didn't get a chance. And I realized I don't have punyam. You're placing, a lot of bankers maybe in this hall, you place a check, there is no money in your bank account. Which bank is going to honor? I don't have any punyam. I don't have any punyam means I have to join. I have to earn punyam. How to earn punyam? So I joined the Sathya Sai Seva organization. For 1 year, I had a chance to serve in the Sathya Sai organization. And one of the services which we used to have in Calcutta city, once a month, we would go to Kali Mandir and we would clean the premises. And when I heard this conversation of Swami telling this boy, your Kalima came and prayed to me, it struck me like a thunderbolt. I used to think that we got this opportunity because not merely our punyam of our own parents or my punyam, it is the parents of ancestors. I never realized that even gods and goddesses have prayed for us. Just as Swami told, that boy, I also did seva in that 1 year seva. I also religiously 5 a.m. on Sunday morning, once a month we would go travel on cycle, 10 kilometers and go and do service there. So Kalima has also put recommendation to the Lord, and that is why we got a chance
to be at his lotus feet. So there cannot be anything greater in our lives that we, in our lifetime, have seen the Lord, have known Him, have recognized Him, but that's not enough. Today, we have to live our lives in such a way that people who didn't get that opportunity, by seeing us, they should be able to recognize, here was the Lord. Why? Because His devotees are like this. Because of His devotees, now He will be recognized. Today is that time, and it is to recharge ourselves with that bhavam, with that feeling. Sessions like Samarpan are so important. Thank you once again. Sai Ram.